it's still classified as out of control, but no structures or infrastructure in the way, so.
The last EOC update was from the regional district.
Is there any in like that electoral H?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
there's one that's just come up from the States, just crossed the border yesterday, so it's in the Pasayten there.
yeah, that one came in too, and then we also have washouts on the Pasayten.
Yeah.
They're making things difficult. So we have Big Burn Creek, which is in Manning Park. That's 628.77 hectares. We have, it's out of control. Region Creek, 957.34 hectares. That's out of control. That's in Manning. Danar Creek, 520 in Manning, and it's out of control. 26 miles out, that's in Manning. We have under control, which is the Blakeburn one, but it's still smoldering, but it's under control. We have
Oh, is that the mine, the mine?
the Ptarmigan fire, which is 500 hectares as of 10 o'clock this morning. That's Area H, it's out of control. And those are the ones that are in our area. And then we have a bunch that are out. Oh. Call the meeting to order. Acknowledge that the Smokeman Valley in which we learn, work, and organize is the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territory of the Smokeman people, home of the Upper Smokeman Indian Band. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Willis, seconder.
So moved.
Gould. All in favor? Carried. There's no minutes to adopt, no petitions, no unfinished business. It takes us to 6.1, which is a staff report on janitorial contract, CAO.
Yes, the current contract has reached the end of its term. It was originally granted for 3 years, and then we extended it as per the contract for 2 additional 1-year terms. So we needed to put out an RFP. An RFP was drafted and advertised. We did receive a total of 8 submissions. Since the original contract was we engaged the contractor, we've added the annex building, 1 new fire hall, new shop, and 2 seasonal park washrooms. So that made a total of 9 yearly facilities and 2 seasonal facilities. So the workload has actually gotten fairly large. You can see on the back page of my report, we did receive 8 proposals, and there's the prices that were submitted. We did review the proposals, and we use an evaluation matrix. So although the Royal Clean that we are suggesting that we go with were not the lowest, they were slightly higher, but they did rank out in the evaluation as being the highest, and so we're recommending that we award the contract to Royal Clean.
Questions? Yep. Go.
How, cause there is, additional hours and additional buildings to go, how much of an increase would you say it is, based over last year's expense?
Last year, the contract price was $90,000, so we're about $9,000, almost $10,000 above last year, which is fairly competitive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, was the increase anticipated in this year's budget?
Yes. Yeah. We did increase the budget, and I will also just point out as well that of the 8 submissions that we received, 5 of them have employees in town already. So, and Royal Clean was one of them. That they have 2 employees that live here in Princeton. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, Councilman Close.
In the past, we've chosen to give leeway in terms of if things were fairly close or whatever, and we were able to sway over to a local firm, we would we'd look at that. In this case, it makes it a little more difficult because you have, as you said, you have almost every one of them has local employees.
Mm-hmm.
Because my first thought was, I know it's $10,000 higher, but one is a local firm that we've been dealing with for 3 years or 5 years,
Yeah.
yeah. But it makes it a little more difficult in terms of trying to explain to taxpayers we're gonna add another $10,000 on simply because one is owned and operated in Princeton and the others are just have local people working on them.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Just in line with that, like, was there with, you said you do the weighing matrix?
Yeah.
That adds into it too, so I'm just curious as to, like, even if it is like less than $1,000 a month increase, there must be other factors, and we don't see the RFP
Yeah.
to know, so.
I can
what's
go
your-
over it. So the matrix that we use, we do make sure that the mandatories are met, so that it was received on time, that whether or not they attended a site visit, it wasn't mandatory, but I mean, it plays out as being important if you want to put together a strong proposal. Resumes of the project teams, equipment list, if there's any subcontractors going to be used, if there's references, we want to make sure we check out the references, which we did. Whether or not they have insurance, that's part of it. And then what we weigh it on is the qualifications of the firm and their team members, experience of the firm and their project team members, their past performance, if we can evaluate it, resources, do they have the resources to do the work, and then of course the final matrix is on price. So when you put it all together and shake it out, the Royal Clean did come out on top. So.
And they all have, like, you can even see there's other local ones, but quite a big difference in price.
Yeah.
It's a little bit.
Yeah.
I know I'm a little bit kind of the same as you, Councillor McLean, and I'd like to lean towards the local, but I also look at the fiscal responsibility to it. But there's, like you said, there's 9 yearly cleans and then 2 seasonal, so with 3 major additions into it. So I can see where the increase is due in price, that's for sure. But yeah.
Yes, so I did. I wasn't sure if it was Councilor Willis or myself. But. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the metric that was used for the RFP is the same that gets passed through the purchasing policy of the town of Princeton. So it's a standard one we use for every RFP that goes out there to avoid any potential bias in the RFP process. And the incumbent does get a score, just because we're familiar with them. So they actually get an elevated score. I think it's on experience.
Yes.
On
Yeah.
one of the on the metrics. So they do get a couple extra points for being an incumbent. It's like 2 out of 100, but it's something. So even with that weighted average, this company still came out with a better score.
So did we check references?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you.
Yeah, I
called
didn't
around
check
them.
references of all 8. I just took the bottom 3 and I checked the references of the bottom 3. So
And these guys had a good reference?
yes.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Willis, you.
I was just saying, yeah, like better score and $10,000 cheaper, right?
Yeah.
What I was talking about, Mr. Is that written in there about what I was talking about? Because we used to take into consideration the fact that it was a local company. If it was fairly close, we had the ability to lean towards a local firm.
In the purchasing policy, it specifically prohibits going with the contractor strictly because they are local. That goes against what's called the New West Partnership Act in British Columbia, that we can't discriminate based on geography. We can discriminate based on the fact we have experience with somebody. However, if all scores are tied, the legislation allows us to go based on geography. So it would be local first, then provincial, then national would come into play as a tiebreaker.
What usually got us away from that was the fact that normally local companies have a lot less, cost traveling and accommodation and all that sort of thing. So it didn't come up very often, but
Yeah, and prices.
on the other side, you got mad at the local companies when they didn't underbid the ones that had to put travel and everything else on it. So
And you're right, it would affect price, obviously, if there's not travel involved and such. So price has a strong component in our RFP matrix. So that shows up in that to a certain extent.
So, yeah,
I'm leaning towards,
I'm just looking up this act.
yeah, no, just that staff has reviewed it and taken that into consideration as well, the fact that there is local employees in there, which
Yes.
probably is what helped them
Yep.
have a competitive.
Yeah, and where that shook out was when we looked at their resumes. We asked them to include their resumes, and so when we evaluated where these people were coming from, and it turned out that 5 out of the 8 had employees in town already, and this is one of them. So these people have 2 employees in town.
U.S. Partnership Trade Agreement.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to hear from you.
I don't know, I'm struggling with it as well. Like, I appreciate that, the next runner-up would be the local guy. The company that has been proposed has local employees. So it's kind of like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, they're living here and they're working here, and we're gonna be supplying them with jobs, and that's pretty local. It'd be like saying we can't work with, name a company in town that's not based in town because they're not based here, right? So, we can't buy our groceries from Save-On because they're not based in Princeton, but their employees are. So, I don't know, I struggle with it. My biggest concern would be what happens if these 2 people leave their company. Then how does the contract continue post, considering that they don't have employees in town anymore? They'd have to find new employees. That could take a while. The other one's a family-run company that, but I also know that he's yeah, it is $10,000 over the course of the year, and I don't know, I struggle with it.
I guess the last word is we're worried about being loyal to local companies. Well, in this case, we also need to be loyal to the fact that there's local employees that got the lowest bid, and then we're not going to award it to them.
Yeah, that's the challenge on it, right? And because the people do live here, they're paying rent, or they're paying their bills here, they're buying groceries here, they're contributing to the economy here. Like I said, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. It's local people going to do the job for a company that's not from here, or it's a local people. And then it all flows back to my only concern is what happens if the relationship with these individuals and the company ends. Then what does that mean for the municipality? And just something we'd have to consider in the contract, I guess.
The
How many
contract
how many
is for
employees
3
do they
years.
have?
It'd just be 2, and then they've got backfill that will come from out of town if these 2 were, like, someone got
But
sick.
how
or
many do
injured.
they have over there?
That's
for
good.
total?
That I don't know. That's a good question. They're a small company that's expanding in the valley here,
Yeah.
so they're out of Summerland, and they've got a number of contracts in the Summerland area and Penticton and stuff. So
And it's a 3-year contract.
yeah, it's a 3-year contract, and it has the ability to extend for 2 additional one-year terms.
Without saying the scoring, how close were they?
I can tell you the scoring.
Okay.
It was Royal Clean came in at 96 out of 100, and the Don Morton proposal came in at 90 out of 100. And really, the most difference was on pricing.
price.
That really is what it came down to, so.
And they would have got some points
Yeah.
for us being working for
Experience.
Yes, yeah.
Or them working for us.
That's correct. They were higher in that regard, but the matrix does put a fair amount of weight on the price, and so Royal Clean came in higher.
And then within the purchasing policy, I'm hearing what Councillor McLean is saying too. And if we do have the ability to leave, if it's close, was there any definition of what close would be? Where we would go towards the local versus the
As James pointed out, usually if it's tied, then we
Yeah,
would
only if
always
it's tied.
award it to the
To the
local.
local. Yeah, I think, considering the matrix part, they get bonus points for being experienced with us, and there's still 6 points difference, so. I don't know, I struggle with it, so.
So a $30,000 difference over a 3-year period. We have the ability, if they're not living up to what we need, then we can.
Yep, there is definitely a clause in the contract to sever the relationship if we're not happy. But you know,
If
there's-
we're not happy.
If we're not happy, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
But there also is the ability that if they're not meeting our expectation, we can meet with them, they can bring their level up, their service level up, and we would hope that they could do that, so.
Yeah, I've only I haven't had experience hiring contracts. I just have had experience with regional cleaning companies and then hiring locally, and then if that changes, it does take a while to backfill. So that's where I'm kind of also struggling too.
Yeah. They have, once they enter into this contract, they have a legal obligation, or else we will sever our ties with them. So if someone leaves on their team, they'll have to make sure that it's backfilled. And they have a backfill provision in their proposal, so.
You
so
would think
they
they thought about that same thing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
You know, it's
yeah,
like,
that's right, so.
Yeah.
With the thought in mind that I feel we have to be fair to the local people that put in the lowest bid and scored the highest, that I would so move that we take the clean
Royal Clean.
BC or whatever it is.
Royal Clean.
Royal
Royal
Clean.
Clean.
So you're making a motion to enter into an agreement with,
Royal Clean.
Royal Clean.
BC Clean.
Yeah.
that-
recommended.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
So the recommended motion you're making, you're moving that, okay?
I'll second
Moved by
what
Councillor
the boss said up there.
Willis, seconded by Councillor Willis, so, McLean Willis. Any last comments or questions? I will call the question, all in favor? That carries. And with that, we will move for adjournment, please.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Gould, Willis, all in favor? Carried, thank you. That's it, we're out.